Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Mr. Keshe, I saw your mic open a couple times. Would you like to come in, or maybe you're moving around?
Good evening. And no, it's just the comment and the questions you asked. The Iran foreign policy is well the backbone of our work, as we know, the negotiation in Vienna will carry on the same with the instruction of President Biden, that they want to push ahead before the handover and transfer of power on the 12th of what we call just about 2nd, 3rd of August. And we expect the Iran national policy in respect to the work will be totally on a new science and technology basis, and we'll see. Setting agenda is very difficult at this moment of time for those who just taken office in less than 24 hours. During the transition, it's very much like in the United States. You elect a president in November, and he moves in office on 20th of January. In Iran, the president elected on the 18th. He will move into office on 12th or what we call 3rd of August. So we are in transition time, and Keshe Foundation has a lot to say in the future of the foreign policy regarding the science and especially the negotiations of 5+1. And we keep very close our work with the way we are doing it and what we see, and the new administration will be very much on the basis of new technology and creation of new jobs, and understanding of the new science and technologies and what can be created through it. Fundamentally, as we said, Iran in 1972 had 95% income on oil and 5% on pistachio and nuts, more or less. Today in 2021, Iran relies less than 25% of its income on oil and 75% on petrochemicals, gas exploration, and high-tech medical systems, which is exported out of Iran. Most of the high-tech systems you see in Germany and Western Europe are manufactured in Iran. And now one of the biggest problem is to increase the oil revenue to less than 10% of national income, GDP. And this has been possible through one-way track of large investments in what we call petrochemicals and pharmaceutical. Iran is extremely advanced in pharmaceutical and other aspects of what we call industrial systems. And now we will see large changes, hopefully, into industrialization, and new space technology in Iran will take hold. Essentially, we will scrap 5+1 in the next few weeks if things go according to plan. Scrapping it by literally leaving Mr. Nazif to be the last negotiator, telling no one on the table to negotiate in a way unless it's done the way we want it. Then we'll see how the foreign policy takes shape. Because if we allow the 5+1, the state, Iran will be subordinate, and Iran will be a slave to the West, what to do what they say. And we cannot accept this anymore. There are a number of nationals will listen to that tonight, and we make a very clear indication now that the regime has changed. We walk away from 5+1, or very temporarily we stick to it till we revamp the whole of Iran from inside. Unless something goes drastically wrong, which we do not think so. We have not hopes. We see 5+1. We negotiated to bring new technologies. We see it as a way of colonization and slavery, and Iran will resist it from now on. Mr. Nazif can negotiate whatever he likes in the West. But we change direction totally through science and technology. I think this answers a lot of people who were waiting to see a clear line from Iran foreign policy. But we have to wait and see. If the present regime changes direction in a different way, and the elected regime will change differently.
Will they be increasing their production in agriculture, or will they be selling any of your technology to the other nations, maybe inexpensively?
We will announce in a coming time. There is a plan. We have already negotiated the plan, and there is but that is the job of the union leaders to announce, not from this position. Something totally different, which will be in line with what we've been teaching. As many of you are aware, and some of you have already entered in the 21st of June, and we know the significance of 21st of June, which is today now in many nations, and will be for most of us in the next few hours. We enter the summer season, summer cycle, and today will be the longest day of the year. And we call it the day of light, the time of light. This is the presence of the Ahura Mazda, as we call it, and the 21st of December, which matches in a way it's been adjusted to 25th of December, you call Christmas. is the birth of Mitra. And there is a cycle of change which happens, and it will happen in this cycle in the next 6 months, where the cycle of light meets cycle of what we call the night. The longest night belongs to Mitra, and the longest day, the day of light, belongs to Haravaza, or what we call the Creator. But something in the line of our work, which is running in the Keshe Foundation in the background, we brought a lot of thinking about Mitra and what Mitra means. And one of the most important things that has been kept away from public domain, but it is in the background of the public domain, is that how much Christianity is Mitraism, and how much Christianity, the way we know as the Catholic version, is Mitraism under the name of Catholicism. The center of Catholic Church sits to be the Vatican. But does anybody know why? What's the reason that what we call Vatican as a city, Vatican as a place of the worship in center of Italy has been created? Why couldn't they choose somewhere else? Napoli, Milano, or anybody else, or anywhere else in the world? Does any of you have ever checked or understand why what we call St. Peter's Basilica has become the center of the Catholic Church is where it is? And this opens up to close what we call the claim of Vatican as a religion, as a Christianity. If you look at the historical documents, underneath the St. Peter's Basilica, the center of Catholic Church, was and today is Temple of Mitra. One of the first temples made by the Roman soldiers outside Europe is where St. Peter's Basilica was the center of Catholic churches. And this temple, known as Mithraism, still exists under the Vatican. And all the Catholic priests of the highest order swear to it. There are a number of Mithraism temples are in Rome, and all of them are covered by the holy buildings of Catholic Church. In a way, we have seen in the past, they built mosques where the churches were, and they built temples over the old temples. And in a way, a lot of mysticism that you carry in Christianity, especially in Catholic Church, comes from Mithraism. even this is my blood, this is my body. The blood, you call it blood, comes traditionally from a plant extract in the present, all the time, called Soma, S-O-M-A. Christ never gave his blood, and Christ never gave his body. This is what came through Zoroastrian belief and the past of the belief, which became conversion of Zoroastrianism and in a way Mithraism. Because in the West they couldn't create this extract which was supposed to give life and energy. In Italy there was a lot of wine. They changed it to wine. The same with the body and the bread. And in a way, Christianity, the way you call it, is Mithraism westernized. And in so many ways, is there a room for Catholic Church and Christianity the way it's being promoted? Leaves a big question mark. Don't take my word for it. Search within the archives of Christian Catholic Church. In so many ways, we are about to change for people to understand the truth. As was said, Mitra is amongst us. And we will change the course by her birthday. But we have to understand the extent of why we even bring new technologies and sciences from random Mitra. To bring the change. That's her wish, that's her command in what we call for the change. And what is interesting is how many of you, knowing the truth that there was never a body and there was never a blood, will still carry on believing. It's easier for you to call yourself Mithraism or Zoroastrians than Christians, because you're dealing with very much a lot of truth which has just been converted, Europeanized for European. The reason this temple was made in Rome was that as Romans were conquering more and more, the soldiers were away from the temples that they believed in. And reaching Iran, the military, the soldiers, found out they can carry something inside them with a belief of God or Mitra, that they didn't need a temple. They needed a statue to go to. And they made these temples between them because it gave them invisible force, energy. And in so many ways, you will come to understand even why the Christ was called the Son of God. And how the virgin birth came to be. And word by word, as we said in the past, matches the work of Mitra. Being the light, being the essence of creation. And the cycle of what we call on earth, the cycle of light, which is today, until the cycle of Mitra, which is 21st of December, beginning of the winter. The changes will be drastic in this time, in this cycle. And it's good for you who always believed in different ways and paths to understand the truth about what is being kept away from public debate. You go to Vatican and pray, but you actually pray over a temple of Mitra. That was the only compromise the Roman emperors could give to their soldiers, that they became more followers of Mitra. And there were those who heard and were around the time and work of Christians in the Middle East. As the soldiers who came from Far East of East Asia came with Mitra, and the soldiers coming from Palestine came with Christ. And for an emperor to be able to still run the nation was a good compromise between the two soldiers, to do armies, to keep the nation together. And this is how the present Catholic Church, the present Christianity was born. This we put on the table because in the coming time there shall be no Pope. As the truth about the way Christianity is said is through the life of Mitra. And in a very short time, then many of you can consider the Vatican will be empty of people. If you remember years ago in teachings I said we return the stones of Vatican back to the Colosseum. And we are about to start that process. Where there is nothing but the conscience of man in this space. In a way, we do not carry Mitra belief of becoming stronger through our heart, but we carry the essence of the Creator to our soul, which changes the course of humanity. And many of you will see the change. Even the election of the clergy in Iran is one of the reasons. We have a bigger plan to create peace and prosperity on this planet than a few different versions of covering up the hat and the head. But in essence, all the same. But if any of you decides to make that change and to bring that change, you all have the capability to do it for your soul. As the knowledge is there and it's been given, and it's for the understanding to bring it about. And today is the day of light. That's the longest time, longest day, but with the significance that everything has been sent in the sequence of change. 2021. And we usually have seen completion in sequence of numbers like this. 1918. When we see 1920, we have seen on the reverse of numbers disasters, and on the addition of numbers prosperity and big changes. And it's interesting to see how much how many people, when they know they all have been Mitra followers in the name of Catholic Church. Birth of Mitra is celebrated as Christmas. The 12 disciples, as Mitra had. Mitra was a light. That's why she was the Virgin, from the Virgin Mother. As the light in essence has no mother but the Creator. And many, many other things which related to Mitra, which is named Christianity. And this puts a very big question mark that how much of what we know about Christ is actually about him. And today is the day of the Creator, 21st of June. 2021, and the first day of the 21st appearance of the Creator is 22. The total number is 9. It's the completion of the cycle. It will be very interesting to see what is about to come and how well we will understand the changes which started as of today. But look, how many of you believed in the Catholic Church, and through it, you're all follow of Mitra. And then you understand why everything will start working now that every other path has been cleared for the change to start. Thank you very much.
Good day, Mr. Keshe. You have answered 2 huge questions that I've had for the longest period of time. And one was the origin of the St. John's Hospitalier. And the other was the ownership of the Vatican of the Royal Archaeological Society. So the one has to do with the militarization of the medical community, and the other has to do with the obfuscation of history. Thank you so much.
Can you explain?
Well, why is the answer? And so the question is, someone is obscuring history, and you've just unearthed a significant portion of this history. And the thing is that history has been suppressed by the very people that you just talked about. The other aspect is that in the medical community, there are 2 schools of thought, virology and bacteriology, and the 2 don't meet. And bacteriology is obviously something that is in the matter state, and the virology is something that's in the plasma state. And right now, we're having a huge upheaval in North America here, because people are starting to figure out that the lies have been overwhelming, and the narrative is being contrived. On Thursday, the 17th, we had a major press release coming from the government with respect to censorship. And people are starting to figure out that many of the medical doctors are being, well, they're being attacked, both verbally and systemically. And so disclosure of information and the exchange of knowledge and discussion of scientific revelations is being forbidden. And one of the things that has been forbidden in Canada is the somatoscope, which is a microscope that can see 125,000 magnification as compared to 1,200 magnification of the electron microscope. And what it can also see is the living blood culture, as opposed to a photograph of a blood specimen. And in it discloses the what Gaston Naessens, who is the French scientist who, shall we say, created the somatoscope, and he was run out of France, and he's come to Canada, and this particular microscope is illegal. And the reason it's illegal is because it shows the divide between the virology departments and the bacteriology departments. And it shows the actual creation of somatids, which are tiny bodies. And these tiny bodies actually come from the hemoglobin, and it's clearly visible. And how they come and how they manifest is clearly visible. And the life cycle of the creation of the somatids and how they migrate to spores and double spores, which is the third dimension, and they cycle back to more somatids and more spores and more double spores, which is the essence of the cellular multiplication through division. It's fantastic what you just said. Thank you so much.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.